What's your name?
Theo.
Theo.
One of the questions I do have is, how do you know to keep going deeper, or maybe you need to pivot a little bit with some of your offering and stuff like that? That's always a challenge in my mind.
So there are a bunch of different ways, but the best way.
Want to be able to see amazing growth in this next quarter for your business and healthcare? I had a chance to listen from the gurus on how to grow my business in this difficult environment. Here's what I learned. If you're struggling mightily and trying to figure out the path forward on how to bring more leads, new revenue into your medical practice or your healthcare company, I had the opportunity to listen to two great entrepreneurs, David Shands and Myron. If you're not aware of these individuals, they are all over the internet. David Shands has a podcast empire that he talks and interviews multiple entrepreneurs. He actually even does deep dives on understanding how they run their business. Also, Myron, he's been around for a while as well. He came from the Russell Brunson ClickFunnels family. That's the same family that produced Alex Hormozi, for instance. Myron is specifically focused on high-level entrepreneurs and how they can generate revenue fast. Well, he recently had an event here in Tampa, Florida. I had the opportunity to ask him a question, and I'll talk to you a little bit later about what question I asked and how it can help your business. But I was thinking about, like, how did he think about growing his business when he was just starting out? And it was a great back and forth between two individuals, one a little bit younger, one a little bit older, in two different spaces on how they're navigating their business models here in 2024. One of the things I'm taking away with whenever you listen to any internet expert or guru or coach, listen, of course, to what they say, but also look at what they do. One of the things I noticed was the collaboration. The way they were able to communicate and collaborate was very inspiring. On one hand, Myron is promoting, he has an event coming up, offers Mastery Live, and he's talking about bringing people in to talk about how you can grow your business here in 2024, this quarter, and for the future. And one of the things he's trying to do is obviously promote and get people to come to his live event. Likewise, he brought David Shands, who has a big presence on Instagram and YouTube, and do a joint podcast. And basically doing that joint podcast, they're now both using both their audiences to promote Myron event, which David Shands is also going to be speaking live at. So one of the things you can learn from individuals and how they operate their businesses is how they collaborate. Likewise, if you are running your business, whether it's a healthcare organization, medical billing company, medical practice, and you're looking at how can you grow, look to collaborate. Typically, the best way to do that is see someone who has a large audience and you have an offer. So for instance, you go on that person's podcast or their audience, whether it's podcast, a video, their event, they are able to promote their offer on your platform, then there could be some kind of exchange of services. For instance, you could get a percentage of everything that person sells on your platform. And that's a win-win in business world. Likewise, with healthcare companies, you have to be very strict about kickback laws, understanding how to avoid that. But if you have a way to partner with individuals who offer different services, and you can pair up together to offer a complete service to your customers, that is a win-win. My business, for instance, we do remote care, we do telehealth services. We're looking to partner with medical billing companies who come in and help our clients who may need help to audit their initial or their ongoing medical billing. They may want just third-party eyes to see what's going on at a different level to see how they can continue to grow their medical practice. Likewise, medical billing companies may want to partner with us because we offer additional revenue opportunity and more revenue we bring to the practice that potentially could help the medical billing company, who typically gets compensated by collected revenue from the practice. And so it could be a win-win situation. Obviously, disclosing and being transparent with your client about the arrangement is always key. But I think the goal there is just how do you create more value for your customers, whether you have an audience or an offer. And that's kind of what you need to do here in this new environment as we're navigating how to provide more help. I think one of the things that people are struggling with is that there is no sense of collaboration, no sense of creating more value for the customer. And a lot of companies are trying to do it themselves. In some cases, you can absolutely have different product lines, a product ecosystem, if you will. But the challenge I've seen a lot of times is you may not have the right solution set. And it doesn't hurt to bring in the experts who've been doing this for a long time, who have an offer that's really more baked out than your solution set and can really kind of position themselves in this new economy. So look to collaborate, partner, look for those individuals who are open to those kind of conversations and have multiple conversations and see what works best. When you look at collaborations, you have to make sure there's a cultural fit fit to make sure you both believe similar things. Also, making sure you don't have similar services, so there's no cross purposes and everyone's aligned to what they want to do. And ultimately, you want to make sure you can enjoy time with that person. As you think about in the US, we have presidential elections. One of the things they always said is, could this president be someone you want to have a beer with, right? So likewise, could this be a partner that you can enjoy spending time with and hanging out with? And I think that's important because obviously you're going to spend a lot of time together. It's almost like a marriage if you guys collaborate. And especially if it goes well, you want to do more and more together. So number one, look at what the gurus do. They collaborate. Number two, one of the things I noticed is that they are forward thinking. One of the things that I saw David Shands talk about and what Myron Golden talked about in this conversation was just thinking about the next level, right? How are they going to take their business to the next level? They really obsess over not just their business, but the business of their clients, their customers, and going deep into understanding what do they need now. One of the things they kind of asked questions around was like thinking through what kind of offers you want to present to the marketplace. What kind of solution sets do you have for your clients or for your customers or for your patients that they can utilize as they're trying to navigate new realities? One of the things Myron mentioned was that you have to become a person that obsesses over your customers' problems. Likewise, if you're a doctor, it's very similar to you understanding the pain points of your patients. You have to diagnose the pain and understand where the pain's coming from. But more importantly, it's something that you have to live and breathe, thinking about all the ways that they're struggling and how you potentially could help them. And I think that's the thing as an entrepreneur. If you can show that you're obsessed with their problems and you think about more than your customer thinks about their own problem, then there's a great chance they believe that you can help them. And you prove it. And the way you prove it is by offering services, in some cases for free. I've spoken to multiple different partners, potential partners, who've constantly say again and again, you know what, we can make it work because we were going to offer it free. I can't tell you how many times I've met businesses that just offered up stuff free of charge, or they say, hey, you know, onboarding is free. You try it out. We go through this whole thing. And if it still doesn't work, you can walk away. No harm, no foul. You don't have to worry about payment. And to me, that just shows a level of trust that they believe their service is so great that even if they incur the cost of onboarding, the likelihood of you staying on board is so high that they can take that risk. And to me, that's just saying that they stand by their service. And so you want to think about your customers and how you can help them at such a high level, and think about the intricacies of their different problems, right? How do you make it easy for them? I had a call recently with a potential vendor. One of the things they did for me was they said, hey, this is what it costs, but guess what? We're going to make it easy for you to pay. And that's basically what he said, is that it doesn't matter if it's credit card, ACH, PayPal, we're going to make it easy for you to make it pay, because ultimately it's about the result you're getting. If you're getting the result that you believe you should get from the product or service or solution from a product or vendor, you'll be willing to pay that. And I think that's the key. And you also have to be communicative and communicate exactly the value that you can bring to the table and what outcome the customer or client should expect. And so that's one of the things about obsessing, really thinking about, like, what do they think about when they get up? What are they struggling with right now? Where do they see themselves 5 years from now? There is a great book, Dan Kennedy, a writer about marketing. He talks about these 10 questions that you should ask yourself. You should know the answers to these things that your customer is struggling with. Likewise, if you have trying to grow like a medical practice or a healthcare organization, think about things that your patients are struggling with, right? Not just from the ailments, but how are they getting transportation to your offices? How are they looking at getting medications? Making sure that they understand when they can get their checkups or their flu shots. Making it easy for them to get the care that they need means that you're thinking about them before they're thinking about themselves. And that goes a long way. Sometimes customers, patients may not even mention anything around the service that you provide for them to help, but that adds up. It's like a brand. You build it over time. They said a reputation takes 20 years to be made and 1 day to be destroyed. Likewise, a reputation and that you care, and more importantly, becomes a part of you. I've seen that as well in myself and how I service my customers. I think about them a lot and thinking about the things that they struggle with. Sometimes you may get frustrated and flustered with understanding like why they're having issues here, why they're not communicative, but I always try to put myself in their shoes, really having empathy and thinking about the challenges they're struggling with, thinking about all the different things they want with their patients, thinking about how we can provide more services, thinking about making it easier to pay. Those are the things that go a long way to ensure that your patient, your clients, and your customers get what they desire as you build out new service lines. Again, you want to obsess, think deeply about their problems as you move forward. And number three, you want to look at helping and building yourself up. You want to put as much information in yourself. looking at YouTube videos. I make YouTube videos, but also look at a lot to learn how to communicate better, talk about what I'm building, and more importantly, how do I want to come across? I see examples and I bookmark them. Likewise, if you're trying to grow, understand the best way to grow is to build yourself up, because you can't pour from an empty vessel. You have to ensure that you have the capabilities and insights so you can provide more to your clients. And sometimes that entails getting coaching. When I went to the event to see David Shands and Myron, I raised my hand. I actually asked them a question, and you hear my voice and you hear them call my name, but I asked them specifically about something I was challenging with.
Okay, so who's got a question? This gentleman, okay, in the back.
What's your name?
Theo.
Theo.
Hey, great session. One of the questions I do have is, you mentioned like going deeper, into the offer, and you got to do it enough times so you get good at it.
Sure.
How do you know to keep going deeper, or maybe you need to pivot a little bit with some of your offering and stuff like that? That's always a challenge in my mind.
So there are a bunch of different ways, but the best way is to find somebody who, I learned it in multi-level marketing. So if you have conversations and you've got somebody watching you, right? First you watch them do it, then you do it with them, then they watch you do it. So like a good way to do it would be to record your calls. And then if you have a coach, have the coach watch the calls, and then they can point out where you've like got a little sidetracked. Great question.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So just keep going, and then having that coach or someone and recording.
Sure.
See if you can go. There's more nuance into what you're doing.
And most importantly, like when you're talking to people, watch their energy, right? Watch their energy so that you can see when their energy begins to be disconnected, and then take inventory of what you were doing at that time and don't do that anymore. Yeah, good stuff, Theo.
When you're building something for a client or trying to create what we call an offer or product, and that would help them, how do you know you're on the right track? And then how do you know if you need to pivot, means change direction, or go deeper into what you're doing? And Myron Golden exactly said, you have to get coaching. And when you thought about that, it made sense to me, because you need an outside perspective to kind of look at things objectively. How you're reacting, how you're sounding, how you're communicating and talking about your offer to your prospective client, so they understand exactly what's the benefit for them. But more importantly, are you providing other senses when it comes to value? Yes, they want to know the outcome. That's the most important. But they also want to have a surety, a high likelihood that they will get that outcome. But then that's undercut by making sure it's easy to implement and it will happen immediately. So a good example is there's multiple different ways to lose weight. If you work out, eat healthy, you can lose weight and get the outcome you want. What's the likelihood of that happening? Pretty okay, but how you have faith in that outcome based on the coach that you get. How hard is it? Can be extremely hard, and also takes a lot of time. It's one of those things that you have to constantly look at and understand when you're kind of building out your offer. You need to know how deep you need to go in providing the service that you want, and really getting that coaching to guide you along the pathways to make sure you're providing the best coaching possible. Well, more importantly, that you are getting coached properly so that you can provide the best services and products for your customers and for your patients. And the way you do that is finding folks who've done it before, finding those mentors, those coaches, those individuals who you've seen and trust that they can absolutely give you the result that you want, and you go deep with them. Let them see the offer, let them critique you, learn from it, and take that feedback. It can be challenging sometimes to get feedback. Sometimes I don't like giving feedback. No one likes that feeling. But guess what? You only get better by telling the truth and understanding where you are. And every source of feedback, negative or positive, can only do you better. So getting that coach kind of sit down with you and talk to you and kind of guide you as you're kind of building out your solution and service stack to help more patients, to grow your business, to get into the next level this year. Those are the things that you have to obsess over and move forward. As you kind of look at overall how these gurus are being successful on the internet, you've seen them over and over again. Some people call them scams, but they are absolutely getting the results. And because number one, you have to look at what they're doing, not just what they're saying. That's collaborating. How are they collaborating and working together to grow both businesses? Number two, are they obsessing over a problem? When you look at some of their collateral out there, does the collateral speak to you specifically? That means they've done their homework and thought through your problem set. And number three, they are always seeking new ways to get coaching, get help, get advice and guidance as they grow and get better in what they deliver to the marketplace. And likewise, you have to do the same. So if you do those three things, you will see phenomenal growth in this year.